About a year ago, I was on stage at Wholescaling, and I'm on stage and I do this thing. I'm in the middle of my deal. I go, all right, person with the best question. I'm flying out to Phoenix, putting them up in a hotel, giving them one of my cars, and we're going to take them on a tour to Steve Trang's office, Batch, TTP, Keegley, in my office. We're going to just blow it out for him. Yeah. Ask the best question. And the guy that wins the thing, his name's JJ Simmons, nicest guy. And his question was, I've been watching you for a couple of years. You give and you give and you give and you give. And he goes, I don't get it. I don't see what's in it for you. Yep. And I'm like, okay, number one, I get a helper's high, just like you do. Like it's impossible for you not to get high on the endorphins that come from helping somebody else, right? Yeah. But the reality is when you actually help other people, you start seeing the fruits of the labor of helping those people. It comes back, whether it's karma, whether it's that person actually coming back and saying, dude, you've been so helpful to me. Let me give you back something else, a connection or whatever. And my answer to him was this. I said, JJ, I'm not that selfish. You might even want to label me as selfish. I'm not selfless. I'm selfish. And he goes, how is that? And I go, because I've seen the fruits of helping other people. And when you get a taste of that fruit, you realize this is the path of life. This actually is the path of least resistance. People think the path of least resistance is being lazy and not doing anything. The path of least resistance is actually doing all of that.
Helping hardworking real estate investors, agents, and entrepreneurs grow a better business, mindset, and future. This is the Carrot Cast podcast. Now here's your host, Trevor Mock.
What's up, y'all? We got a special Carrot Cast episode. I haven't done a studio episode in quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got an amazing guest with me today. Dude, good hanging out
with you.
Bro,
thank you.
Last
Oregon,
2 days now.
I'm on the Oregon Trail right now with Trevor.
Yeah.
You're taking me through Oregon. I guess this is probably the cool part of Oregon, right?
We like to say it is. I've lived in most parts of Oregon, Southern Oregon on the east side, up in Portland, and now Southern Oregon on the west side. Dude, we love it here. Like we were talking when we were up fly fishing earlier this morning. We do carrot camp here 2 times a year, and that's kind of part of our goal is number one, we love our area and we want to get people in here. And small town, 25,000 people. And a lot of people ask me, like, why do you still have carrot in Roseburg? I'm like, well, just come out here and I'll show you around.
Is
and
epic.
then you'll know why we're doing it. And that we're not crazy.
Yeah, so. It really is interesting because I have buddies that, they golf in Bend, Oregon.
Yep.
And they talk about Bend. We got to go to our annual trip in Bend. So I chose to spend 3 days in Bend.
Yep.
And I've had more fun in Roseburg in 1 day than I did in 3 days
in
Bend.
Love it.
It's awesome here. And obviously it was large part to you and your team, and it's been fun hanging out at Carrot HQ.
Yep.
But now I'm looking forward. I don't know what goes on entirely at Carrot Camp, so I'd like to hear a little bit more about it.
Cool.
I'm more excited about just coming back to Roseburg than anything else.
I love it, man. So guys, I'll give you kind of those who are watching the YouTube video or listening to this on audio. So first of all, I'm going to toss over to Pace to introduce himself shortly, but we're not going to do a long intro because literally his podcast episode just came out from the time we're recording this like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So we're going to link up the full episode with Pace where he talks about his story, how they're doing tons of creative finance. So we're not going to talk about creative finance in this one. We're just going to kind of talk about for a little micro episode, what we've been doing the last couple of days. I want to talk about his 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning wake up times. And, I'll see people posting stuff on Instagram about how you wake up early. And there was one conversation on Facebook or Instagram. I think you screenshot on Instagram story about a guy that said he didn't have time. And
it was so good.
We'll talk about that in a bit and why Pace woke up at 2:30 in the morning to show the guy that he did have time. But dude, first of all, I'm so pumped when Carrot customers come here, when influencers come here. But here's the deal: we've had a good number of Carrot customers come here. We've had some amazing influencers come here, and this isn't just because you're sitting here. Just one of the most genuine dudes.
Oh, thanks.
Amazingly fun to hang out with, easiest guy to get along with, and dude, I want to make sure that we don't leave here this as just a business relationship. I'm saying that like legit.
Of course.
I'm rooting you on for business. for life. And I want to see you guys impact tons and tons of people.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Dude, for sure.
You have built something super special here.
Thank you.
Really, really special here. And when I was coming into town, I was telling my wife, I go, out of all the places in the whole world, he's in Roseburg, Oregon. And again, like this is really cool. The fact too, is that you guys are the second fastest growing tech company, or is it online? What was it?
So we're the fastest growing software company in the state of Oregon 2 times in a row.
There you go.
And made the 505,000 list three times in a row. We haven't got the number yet. I think we get it like in a day or two for this year's, but we'll hit the 505,000.
But that's a good little nugget for people that say, well, I don't live in the right place, or I got to move to a bigger city, or, I wish I had access to better employee base or something like that. And it's like, you're in a town of 25,000 people.
Yep.
You have built an amazing team. Everybody on your team is like, wow, where do these people come from?
Except for Brady here. No, I'm just kidding.
Brady's even better than everybody else. He's amazing. So it is very cool what you built. And then you showing me around Roseburg and telling me about Carrot Camp. I'm like, this has got to be one of the coolest events of the year. You keep it super, tight knit and small so that people really get the ability to connect.
Dude, and that's the whole thing. I mean, you saw kind of a little micro version of it, right? We took you and Laura, your wife, out to a winery yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. And none of this stuff was planned. Like, other than, hey, I think taking them to a winery would be cool. But then when you hit me up on the text message and you're like, dude, I'd love to go fly fishing. I'm like, all right, let's make it happen. Let's
throw something together.
And so we got to do that too. And that's kind of part of what we want to do with Carrot Camp is of course you come and learn. You're going to learn how to scale your business if you want to scale your business. You're going to come and learn from the other investors and agents there. They're all high level people. There's no new investors there. And the biggest thing, dude, is we want to bring you kind of into our environment to show we're not doing everything perfect, but we're doing some things right, and see how, I interact with my team, see how we operate our business from the inside out, stuff that you can't even learn in the podcast.
Right.
At the last Carrot Camp, Brent Moreno, Adam Johnson,
2 lovely human beings,
dude, you know them really well. They came in, you're already doing a business that does over 100,000 a month, but when Brent left, the words that he said were so cool. He said, I came in here not really knowing what to expect, but I'm leaving. I came in comfortable. I realized when I was here, I was comfortable, and Carrot Camp got me out of my comfort zone. And dude, he left Carrot Camp. I didn't tell him to stop smoking. I didn't tell him to stop drinking. I didn't tell him to stop working out. The things that we talk about and that we go through transformed him while he was here, to where after that, he's like, I haven't smoked in X amount of months. I started running.
Love it.
I started drinking a lot of water. And that's the change I want to see at Carrot Camp.
Right.
Let's get around the people who can help you grow your business for sure. Because if you can do that, you can then fuel a better life and make a bigger impact. But we want to leave you guys changed. Like,
yes.
Mentally and business wise.
A big thing for me. So you just got off of a month sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people can truly pull off a month sabbatical. Right. So even me, I'm traveling the country, but I have anxiety probably 2 hours a day where I'm not connected because I still am, tied in with certain parts of my business. And so I was telling Cody, I go, yo, we have to go to Carrot Camp. Number one, Roseburg is super dope. Number two, Trevor just did this 1 month sabbatical and he was talking to me last night about framework. And look, he might not have the answer to everything, but he set himself up and built an amazing team that he doesn't have to check in for an entire month.
Yeah.
And I guarantee your guys' business even grew during that time. It wasn't stagnant.
It did. Yeah.
It grew.
Yep.
In your absence.
It did.
Which allows you now to go work on, my favorite book of all time. I tell people it's the book you should read. And I wish somebody told me in my 20s to go read this book, was Rocket Fuel.
Yep. Dude, amazing book.
So good. And
Marcus Buckingham or something.
Yeah, and they wrote Traction and all that stuff too. And they're all behind like the level 10 meeting theory and all that kind of stuff. But what they talk about in there is guys like you that are visionaries building things and hiring out things away from you so that you can go and make an impact and not be completely taken over by your business. And that's what happens. It feels like there's this plateau in business, right? You run and gun, you're on a shoestring budget, you're getting deals done. You even have a client that just did this, right? He's the guy up in Tacoma.
Yep.
So he goes and runs and guns. He's 15 hours a week or 15 hours a day. Sounds like a typical like starting out entrepreneur. And then you plateau.
Yep.
And then when you plateau, you actually start falling apart.
Yep.
If you don't have the framework, the systems, the team, the culture. I'm sure you guys talk about culture at Carrot Camp and like how you guys have really built that. So for Cody and I, my business partner, building all of our businesses, I'm super excited about coming out and learning those things, because that's the part of my business I'm at right now where it's like, we need to implement that more than we need to implement more marketing.
Yeah. Another PPC campaign or something. Right. That. Dude, one of the things that helped me the most. So you talked about that analogy of, you're ramping things up, but eventually you're going to hit this breaking point. Eventually you're going to hit this point where you're either going to burn out or the company's going to start to go backwards and suffer. What I've experienced, man, and like this came from personal experience from me doing it. And then I kept on seeing all these other people out there doing the same thing was, it seems like there's like a 2 to 4 year cycle for most entrepreneurs where that first 1.5 to 2 years, it's new, you're building, you're working a ton of hours, right? Which is great. But what happens with a lot of them is you're starting off usually running away from something. It's running away from a job you don't like, or an income that's too low, or you're trying to prove people wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that fuels you that first 18 months to 2 years, and you're cranking, you're doing the deals, you're doing whatever, but you're selling toilets, like whatever business you're doing. And then once you get to a point where you're making the income that gets you away from that thing you're running away from, most people forget to run towards something. And so that's usually in that, by 18 months, 2 years, if you're executing well, you've probably come close to hitting that income, maybe 3 years. And so what happens at that point is that entrepreneur needs something new to run towards. And what they usually do
Shiny object?
Exactly, dude.
I call it the moth. You start flying towards whatever's the brightest light.
100%, right? And so, and I did this cycle 2 times. And so you're running something for 2 or 3 years, and then you're like, oh man, I need to find something else that's interesting. What are my goals? I keep on setting a bigger number because that's what you're supposed to do. And then eventually you end up starting another business or 2 more businesses or whatever it is. And I did this 2 times wrong, where I did that, but I was still working in the main business, driving it, and these other 2 businesses, I was working those. And then the main business, because I took my eye off of that ball, because I got the shiny object syndrome, I started running towards something new because I didn't have purpose and passion of that existing business, why I needed to continue to push that forward. I would get distracted. Your main business starts to go down. And then hopefully one of those side hustles works, but usually they don't because you didn't work on those very good.
Right.
And that's when I see a lot of, at least first time entrepreneurs. It's that 2 to 4 year period, man. A lot of success in the first 2 to 3 years. And then maybe 3 to 5 years, they hit that point.
Right.
And what you have to do is you've got to stack. You've got to get to that point and go, okay, cool. I'm either going to backfill me in this job, so I don't have to be here, and I can go out there and look at other opportunities, now build other ones, but this one's still growing because there's an amazing team and amazing processes. Or I've got to remove myself from looking at other shiny objects and just say, what's my vision forward in this business that excites the crap out of me? So I want to keep working in that business.
Right.
And that's happened to me. Like I was always in a 3 to 4 year cycle, dude, where I would in 3 to 4 years, I'd look for a new business. And I thought that was just me. I'm a starter. I'm just a guy who's going to run a business for a few years, and I've always got to churn and churn and churn.
Right.
And then once I got 3 years in the Carrot, I'm like, I don't want that. How do I just make Carrot to where it's perpetually the vehicle that creates the impact I want to make? And it's the vehicle that gives me energy. And so you have to kind of reinvent that existing business if you want to keep running that business. But dude, yeah, we're going to talk about that stuff at Carrot Camp. But that's stuff I'm passionate about.
I'm excited because I look at, so my dad had 12 kids, all same wife, right? So my mom, my dad, 12 kids. So imagine my dad having to come up with that kind of money every single month, right? Like we would buy people buy a dozen eggs. My parents would buy a gross of eggs every single week. I don't even know
what a gross of eggs is.
It's 144. So most people don't even know what a gross is. I learned what a gross of eggs was when I was like 8 or 9 years old because my parents wouldn't say, hey, go get a dozen eggs. It was like, go get a gross.
Yep.
So my dad had to create that type of income to support that level of, that size of a family. My dad was in the 3 or 4 year cycle just like that all the time. So when I got older And, I'm married. My wife would look back and go, your dad is probably one of the hardest working, smartest, most charismatic, caring people I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
Why is he constantly reinventing himself? This is no joke going on right now. So I go, I don't know. He's building a company, selling it. He's building a company, selling it. That's what I thought when I was younger. When I got older, I realized it was building a company, hitting a brick wall because of one of three things. Two of them you've already mentioned. The third one is maybe partnering with somebody way too similar than yourself, right? So it's like, well, I'm going to go find somebody that has the same passion as I do. Maybe not necessarily around this product, but just passion in general. Maybe another visionary. You don't even know what a visionary integrator is.
Yeah, you're not even thinking about that.
You have no
You just want to
idea.
find someone you have chemistry with.
Yes.
Hey, I like that dude. He's smart.
Let's go build a business together. Next thing you know, 3 years later, you're fighting because you don't even realize what's really going on. Because it's not that you're really fighting. It's that there's this conflict, this tension, this friction that one of those people is not building the systems behind not to remove yourselves from the old positions, but to replace yourselves with amazing, better people. Right? Like you've got Brady, you've got Levi that are probably better at their jobs than you ever were when you were on a shoestring budget. And you've done such a great job, like finding these people, number one, and then two, letting go. So I don't think my dad ever let go. It was like, he wanted to do his own bookkeeping. He wanted to do his own stuff. And now I'm in a position where I go, I wish I learned this in high school that you need to do the job maybe while you don't have the budget. But the second you have the budget, you get rid of that job and you hire. So for example, my bookkeeper, she does things that she enjoys doing. She loves her job and I repel those types of tasks. So I'm not meant to do those things. She is. And so I found somebody that takes the pride, the passion, and the purpose that you're talking about in that position. And man, I wish I knew this 15 years ago. And I feel like I know 10% of what I really need to know. And that's why I'm looking forward to Carrot Camp, is I think Carrot Camp is going to launch me forward in my understanding, being able to see behind the scenes in your business and inside of other business owners that are also kind of going through the same stuff.
Dude, I'm excited to have you guys out here, man. So it's interesting. So right after, for context, like Pace was saying, Monday this week, I came back from the month off, and I did this in 2016 too. And then I take a good bit of time off, but I wanted to do it again this time. And I've been saying this, it wasn't about the recharge. Like I love my work. I was missing work when I was gone. But it only probably took a week or so to get out of that, just the work in my mind all the time. So then it was on my family the whole rest of the time, family and friends, when we were hanging out with them during that month. And here's the deal, man. I realized the first time I took a month off in 2016, I had Slack on my phone still.
Oh yeah.
I had Facebook on my phone still. And I got to the end of that month and I felt less charged. I felt like way less charged. I felt like I was micromanaging my business, even though I didn't reach out to anybody in that month. I didn't send one message. I was still looking at stuff. And by the nature of me looking at stuff, my mind wasn't able to disconnect. And I felt more wore out by the end of that month off, because I was in my off time, in my Slack time, for lack of a better phrase. I was pulling up Slack and just like, oh yeah, things are good. And so this time I said, I don't want that. Like how would I structure things this time to where I don't feel the need to even check in, to where there's zero need to check in. And so I'll talk about that at Carrot Camp a little bit, our new sabbatical or extended leave process. And it made it to where I knew that there were going to be one of three things that the team would reach out to me for. They were already predefined. It's like, if one of these three things happens,
the building is on fire.
Yeah, pretty much, right? It's like one of them was like, if we can't accept money anymore,
right,
and you guys can't take care of it without me having to like sign something,
right?
Yeah. Another one was one around personnel. There was one around letting go people and stuff like that. Like,
right.
Of course, that didn't happen. Doesn't happen much here. And there was another one. But I knew going into this month, then I had peace of mind knowing, I don't have to think about 100 things and wonder if 100 things are going well. I just have to know these three. And then I know that those three things are not happening if someone didn't hit me up.
Love it.
So I could completely pull away from it. Everything else, the team had the ability to make the decision. So leading up to that, we would start to do a decision audit every other week for about a month and a half to 2 months. The direct reports around me were coming to me and saying, okay, here's things that you usually make decisions on. I would write them down. My assistant would write them down. We'd prioritize them then. And then usually every couple of weeks I'd pull away and go, okay, let me record that. Let me write it down, or let me give you the process or the thinking, the way to think about how to make that decision. And now that's yours. And so by the time I got to the sabbatical, I didn't get them all done, but most of them were done, dude. And then the team was able to go make all those decisions without me.
This is an interesting conversation because number one, it was a true sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people that go on like a 4 or 5 day trip and the whole time they're thinking about work, and they're also like Sunday afternoon, they're packing up to head back home, and Monday morning, it's like putting out fires all day long, right?
Yep.
So that's not much of a vacation. It's not really a recharge or a disconnect. So I love what you did. It's unbelievable. Jerry Norton was on Steve Trang's show a year ago. Okay. And I'm in a mastermind with Jerry Norton. And so, and then Jerry Norton and I live on the same part of town. We're really close to each other. And he goes on this RV trip like 4 or 5 years ago. And he says, I went on this RV trip for a year with my family. And what I learned is that my business was full of holes. It had no processes. Everything relied on me. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me was to get away from my business and kind of gut check myself. Right. So I think that's kind of what you did in 2016. Where you realize like, okay, maybe I need to add some more processes, some more framework, pass things off to people, but not in a way of like, hey, will you do this for me? It's more like, hey, you own this now. This is you.
Exactly.
If this comes up, I'm not involved at all. This is now part of your job. And so those are the things that I need to, we're doing a decent job of it, but you
guys are doing a great job of it.
I say we're doing okay. We're on the beginning of the journey. And I think we're okay. It's like, it's okay to bump your knees and scrape your shins as long as you're climbing the stairs. I don't mind tripping on the first couple of steps. I just want to make sure I'm ascending somewhere. And that is what I'm excited about, is understanding that because owning a business is what people think they're doing in their first 2 or 3 years, but the business completely owns you.
Dude, 100%.
You see those memes on Instagram where it's like, okay, here's the true definition of an entrepreneur. It's somebody who doesn't sleep. It's somebody who doesn't blah, 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 blah. It's like, that sucks.
Yeah. And I think you've got to do it for a period of time, right? It's like during that building time, there will be people who will listen to part of this and go, oh, cool. They're telling me I don't have to work as hard and I can still be successful. Dude, during those first 2-3 years or whatever it's going to take, you got to work your butt off. Right. But then that's the key is by the time you hit that 24-month period, that 36-month period, you need to start looking at it and going, okay, how do I now pull myself out of a lot of this?
You do not deserve the right to work smart if you haven't worked hard. And so many people are like, don't work smart, don't work hard. I'm like, no. You need to earn this right. You haven't built up enough momentum. You haven't built up enough right to ultimately say, okay, I have a little bit of a breather. Let me put in a process. Another breather. Let me put in a process. And so for us, Cody, my business partners, I'm the face. He's the backbone of the operation. So he's behind the scenes. Every single time he has a conversation with an employee, he's recording it on Trainual. And he says, okay, great. This is a conversation about this. So I'm going to record it on Trainual so that next time I have another employee, let's say you ascend to a higher job position. Next guy comes in here. He says, hey, go watch these 30 videos first, and then I'll onboard you. It's those types of things to get specific about, systems and processes so that it takes less time. Because for us, like, especially when we were building a door knocking team to get very granular, we were, every time we'd have 3 or 4 new door knockers, it was like starting all over from scratch. Now what we do is we have this video, we have 7 or 8 videos that you're a brand new door knocker. You have to watch these 8 videos. And at the end of the 8 videos, it basically is like Morpheus from the Matrix. And he goes, do you want the blue pill or the red pill? The blue pill is you leave and this is not an opportunity for you. The red pill is you've watched these videos, you understand, you have the context of what your job description is. If you take the red pill, you are immediately walking out and going to start knocking doors now. There's no more training. You've watched the videos. You're good to go. And it offloaded, no joke, probably 20, 30 hours a week of just talking to people about the same thing over and over and over.
Dude, here's one thing I want to talk about too. We talked about it last night at pizza, where someone brought up something about, man, you're really process driven. Dude, I didn't know. I'm not organized. Okay. Brady can attest that I'm not organized. I'm not the cleanest person. I'm getting better. My wife's amazingly clean, so she's been an amazing influence on me there. But it it's kind of one of those things where that example you gave there, you have to want to not do something so bad, or you have to want what's on the other side of that work so bad that you become good at that. Like I wasn't born good at creating process and crap. I became really good at it because I had to, because I'm like, I don't want a business where I've got to do those things. I don't want a business where I have to train 18 door knockers every 2 months or whatever that is. And so I said, well, what's the business I do want? What does it look like? And what's required of me now who do I have to become in order to grow a business that does that? And so that's what the team sees here at Carrot now. I never used to be that guy, but I love it now. Now I can pull back and go, okay, I'm thinking more strategically now instead of tactically. But you always have to start tactic and strategic when you're first starting the company. Dude, one thing you mentioned earlier is you said, of course, in those early days, you've still got to put in the hours. And before we hit record here, I was saying, dude, I want to talk about your when you wake up in the morning. And there was a guy that you posted on your Instagram. Guys, go follow Pace on Instagram. He's amazing on there. There was a guy that you posted on there, and I think he probably meant well.
Yeah.
He's had influences who weren't like you. They weren't positive influences, showed him how to work hard or showed him what success actually requires. But he said something to the effect of, must be nice or whatever. And he said, how do you do this when you have a really demanding 9 to 5?
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
My response was, basically I said, get up earlier. And he was like, oh yeah, that's the easy answer. And I'm like, okay, I'm up typically between 3 and 4. I naturally will wake up now. It's habitual. It's been that way since I was young, but it's habitual. I don't have an alarm. What drives me, to be honest, this is just full transparency. What drives me on a day-to-day basis, and this is maybe a mindset thing I need to fix, is fear. Fear drives me. And what I'm fearful of is not reaching my potential. Right. Yep. And seeing like, oh my gosh, I put in 10 hours worth of work and I got this reward. Yep. What if I put in 20 hours worth of work? I'll get 2 of those rewards. Oh my gosh. So I just am trying to squeeze out every minute of every day. My conversation with my wife on a daily basis, I go, babe, it's 8:30 and I'm not working. Yep. So that's if we're like doing something together. I go, I got to disconnect. I got to go work. So it's a fear-based mentality. But what I learned early on in my life is that the world will consume you from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, right? Because that's when everybody else is working. That's when everybody's pulling on you. And you know that as a business owner. So if I wanted to watch a YouTube video about how to save taxes or how to do this, the only time I could legitimately do that was early in the morning before the kids woke up, my wife woke up, whatever. So I've always woken up early, probably 5 o'clock. But when I became an entrepreneur, it was like, I need those 2 extra hours of absolute uninterrupted time. I plan out my day for an hour, like that granular. I plan out my day for the most part. And then when things come at me, I know what to say yes to, and I know what to say no to. I know what to push on to the next day. And then I do my education in terms of bettering myself. Then the rest of my day, I can just pour into everybody else. So this guy, sweet guy, he watches every wholesale hotline. He watches every single YouTube video I put out. He's a sweet, sweet guy. But here he is 3-4 months later in his learning process, and his comment is still, well, my 9 to 5 job controls me. And I'm like, and it will forever until you make that mindset shift. What are you doing the rest of the time? Right. As entrepreneurs, we understand there's days that we spend, I don't know, probably 12, 14 hour days from time to time. Even now, after you've scaled away from the need to work super hard, you're working on the next project. You're working on the next thing. Right. So I woke up, I typically wake up between 3 and 4. I woke up at 2:30, time stamped it. And I said, I'm waking up at 2:30. I came back to his comment and I said, I'm up at 2:30 right now. Look at the time, just to show you there are absolutely 0 excuses in life, and excuses will never pay your bills. So he sends me this big, long video on Instagram. Like, I can't say this enough. I guess I just needed some tough love because I am only hanging out with people that also have 9 to 5 jobs. So they get home at 5:30 and they're like, man, this is a really tough day. Let's go grab a beer. I'm done for the day. I'm done for the day. What do you really? And if you do anything different than what they're doing, then they're going, why are you doing that? Or why aren't you doing this? Oh, you're a big shot or this, that, and the other. I have students, or I have even friends and family members that hang out with people like, oh, you think you're tough. You're building a business, right? It's like small person mentality. And so I told him, I said, the number one thing you can do is maybe not even wake up earlier. The number one thing you can do, and this was my response to him, was after you get home from work, go find 2 or 3 other people that are trying to build a business and do stuff together and hang out with those guys.
Dude, I love it.
Stop hanging out with the 9-to-5 mentality because they come home and they complain, right?
Love it.
They're not building anything, right? And that's another thing too. This is another conversation going back to our original one was, how do you build a workforce? How do you build employees and team members that don't feel like this is a 9-to-5? Right? How do you build an environment that doesn't feel like that?
Yeah.
Right? Where people take pride in that. And it's like, this is really where I want to be. And it's unfortunate that this kid that's trying to learn, he's stuck in a job that he absolutely hates and he wants to run away from it so badly, but he doesn't have any support, doesn't have anybody showing him exactly what to do. So
he's got you, man.
Right.
He's got you.
My answer to everything is always wake up earlier. My wife goes, well, how do I do this? I go, my answer, I'm about to say something. She goes, let me guess. You're going to tell me wake up earlier. I'm like, yeah, honestly, if you need to do this, that, and the other, just wake up an hour earlier. But
that's the easy answer. Like the kid said, that's the thing, man. Like oftentimes the keys to what people want, the keys to what we want, they're already in front of us. Like we either need to find the person that knows it and ask them, and it's usually a simple answer, and then do it. And dude, I struggle with the morning thing. I'll just be flat out and frank. And kind of when I pull back and look at why, I think for me sometimes it's because deep in my mind, I'm not convicted that I need to wake up earlier to achieve something. I feel, well, I can still do it in the time that I've got during the day. And so for me, I don't like that. Like for me, that means I'm not thinking big enough.
100%.
For me, it means I need to think bigger. I need to, I just don't like that.
Maybe you need to have better time management or whatever. If you're having to wake up that much earlier, it's like, well, what about time management? I completely agree.
Well, no, yeah. For me, it's like, dude, you're so on fire right now. You know, you're so on fire right now to where I see the way you engage in your community. I see the way that you're an amazing example for guys like him and all of us. Like when I see you waking up early like that, and I see you showing up to your students, doing the 24-hour marathons on Facebook and all that stuff, and go, man, Pace is like a better dude. No pun intended, but Pace is setting the pace. Like he's setting the pace for all of us. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited to meet you. Like when I knew you were coming here, there's a lot of other people that I'm sure were coming or have come through the area, but I don't go out of my way to hunt them down.
Bro,
and say,
you are so amazing.
Here.
Thank you.
I hunted you down, man. I'm like, I want him here. I don't know what'll come of it. And I could care less if anything comes business-wise from it. I just want to meet the dude because the way that you're showing up elevates my standards for myself. And that's something that I talk about. I talked about at Carrot Camp. That was part of Brent's transformation when he left is I got him to see a vision, a greater vision of himself, where you start to look at it and go, well, who's the person I want to become? Let me go find the people out there who are influences in this part of life or that part of life, and let me borrow their traits. Like you're probably not going to find a person that does everything you would like to be, but I can grab this from Pace, and I can grab this from my coach Dan. I can grab this from this person. And then you then have that new vision of who you want to become. And then the next thing is every single time you choose to look at your alarm clock and go, am I going to hit the snooze button or wake up? You go, well, shoot, what would the person I want to become do?
Right.
You know, what would that person that I want to become do? And if you make the choice to hit the snooze button, you're making the choice to fall back into the person that you are, not the person you want to become.
And the snooze button is more of, I think, probably a metaphor than anything else. For me, for me, it's literal, right? It's like, I'm waking up earlier. For somebody else, it might be something like, hey, instead of going out and doing, shooting guns with your buddies on Thursday night at 5:00, why not go to a local RIA, or why not go to a local thing and utilize your time a little bit better? For me, the only thing I know to do, because what I'd like to do is I like to have my phone facing downward when I'm in an appointment. I want to know everything's set up for the day. So waking up early was the only solution to that for me, or staying up late. And I'm not a night person. For me, like I turn off like a light switch at 9:30. It's like, I can't, it's almost like somebody put Benadryl in me and I just shut off. So I can't stay up late. I see other people staying up till 1 a.m. and I go, that's my version of waking up early. Right. So everybody has their own things, or other people have certain superpowers that they figure out how to make life work for them. Waking up early might not be the solution for everybody. For me, it is. So let me ask you a question. if I'm brand new into any business, any venture, whatever, and I'm listening to this podcast, and what I'm taking away is I need to find better people to aspire to be, actually to get me motivated. How do I find those people? How do you find people that you need? Is it people you already have in your network? How was it when you were maybe in 2008 where you were kind of getting started? Were you purposely reaching out to people with specific traits, or were you just working so hard these opportunities came to you because the universe was delivering?
Dude, I'll give you two things I've done. One thing I've done twice and it worked. So it's a model anyone can take now. So in 2008, when I was first getting into the real estate education world, I didn't know anybody. I had no clue. I had a little website that got a little bit of traffic. I was teaching some things I was doing with my rental properties at that time. And I didn't have any connections. And so what I did was I found where the people were that I was kind of aspiring to be like in that industry. And then I reached out to them, just cold emailed them. Most didn't answer me back because I was nobody. It was guys like Than
This is before Instagram and Facebook, guys.
Oh, basically. Dude, it was all email back then.
Yeah, 100%. Because Instagram, I think Instagram now is about 9 years old. So that was before Instagram, which DMing people on Instagram is straight. So people taking this advice, don't cold email. Maybe go, maybe Instagram DM somebody, right?
Dude, 100%. That's where I do all my communication with people outside of my team. It's IG. I don't answer email or anything like that. But what I did is I reached out to those people. And I found out where they were hanging out, and I discovered there wasn't a group. There wasn't a way to connect them. Like there was no group that all those people in that industry could be a part of. So I created it. I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we all just connected with each other? It wasn't. I didn't position it as isn't it cool if we can connect? I was like, isn't it cool if I could just connect you guys?
That's
so
cool.
You guys can talk all the time. And I did. And so that put me in the middle of that industry, which put me right there.
You became Instagram before Instagram was Instagram.
Dude, there we go. There we go. And so what happens there is immediately I up-leveled my peer group, right?
Yeah.
And I did the same thing locally when we moved here. It's like, I don't know anybody. And so let me flip through the phone book, find people who might have common things I resonate with. Let me go see if they're successful. Just like, are they more advanced than I am in certain traits? Go meet them. And I did the same thing here. I created the group. I said, okay, well, let's go find more of us. And hey, Dick, and hey, Jason, why don't you guys come back this next month and bring one or two people with you that are like-minded.
And this was your event that you were doing every month?
Did it every month for almost 10 years.
Oh my word.
Dude, it took 4 years to get it up to momentum. So that's the whole thing with talking about you've got to work through that phase. It took 4 years. There were sometimes I was showing up to my own entrepreneur meetup where I wasn't sure if anyone was going to be there. And I was actually afraid to go because I didn't want to be there with someone who was new coming to an entrepreneur meetup with one person.
Yeah.
And it was just me. And that never happened, but there were a couple times where there was just me and 2 people and 3 people. And I would have to explain away, last month there was 20 people here. I don't know what the deal was. And then it just took off. Like I don't even know what it was, but it went from that.
You know what it was. It was consistency.
There we go.
That's what it was, because that's really like consistency is so incredibly important. A lot of people that want to do anything, forget about wholesale and fix and flip and creative finance and all that kind of stuff. Forget about that. Just business in general. People want all this advice.
Yep.
So they have this advice. 60 days later, like, I'm not. I literally had a guy. His name's Mitch. Sends me a text. Not a student. Nothing like that. Just a dude that I know local in Phoenix. And he says, man, I'm just feeling like this business is not for me. And I'm like, you're 60 days in. You do not have the right to say that this business is not for you, because it's like you go to the gym, you do 10 push-ups and are you looking in the mirror at your pump? Like after 10 push-ups, bro, you don't see any gains unless you're 90 days, 120 days in. And then barely you start feeling that strength. And once you feel that strength, you start getting that motivation. So it's the people who really do persist through and push through, that you show up to a meetup that you've been putting on for a while and 2 people show up and you go, I'm going to do this again next month.
Yeah, dude, every month. And I'll answer your earlier question in another way too. Like how do you create that peer group around you?
Right.
The next thing is exactly why you're sitting here, right? And I still do it today, guys. It's you identify somebody that you want to connect with for whatever reason.
Right.
For you, it was a lot of reasons. It was, honestly, you have a lot of traits. I'm like, I want the traits that he's got. So I want to get closer to him to experience it, just get to know him better. But also, dude, like I said, your ethics, your morals. I'm like, I would love to have that. That guy would be an addition to my life. Like it would not be a subtraction in any way, shape, or form. It'd be an addition. I think I can add value to his life as well. So I pursued you. Like, frankly, I did. And I've done that a lot in my life where I notice somebody, I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to add so much value to them in their life, not asking for anything in return. Because I just want to get closer to them, and I want to see what their sphere looks like how do they operate, how do they tick, and I want to add to them. And by doing that, I will learn a lot, and I might get something in return down the road. But so much of that, like, find the people you aspire to be like, or you enjoy, or you're getting value from. Reach out to them and like work for them for free, or offer to help them with something,
or connect them with somebody.
Dude, be a connector, right? And that's what I did the first 2 times. So those are the perfect examples. A lot of people, they complain about, well, how am I going to go out there and do this? I can't pay for a mastermind, or I can't pay for Carrot Camp, or whatever it is. You don't have to,
right?
Like, you just have to find people that you resonate with, that you, like you said, you're going somewhere. Instead of being happy being where you are, you're going somewhere. And then you just find ways to connect people of like minds. And just like,
what's interesting about that. So about a year ago, I was on stage at Wholescaling. Elizabeth Navarrete put the event together. It was a really good event. And I'm on stage and I do this thing. I'm in the middle of my deal. I go, all right, person with the best question. I'm flying out to Phoenix, putting them up in a hotel, giving them one of my cars. And we're going to take them on a tour to Steve Trang's office, Batch, TTP, Keegley, in my office. We're going to just blow it out for him.
Yep.
Ask the best question. And the guy that wins the thing, his name's JJ Simmons. Nicest guy. And he would have been embarrassed by this question, but now he's scaled away from this question. But here's his question. Yep. He gets up. We probably had a line of, no joke, 80 people. And they had to tell me, like, you need to get off stage, bro. You've gone an hour long. Everybody's crying. The questions it was so great. It was like, honestly, one of the highlights of my life. JJ gets up and his question was, I've been watching you for a couple of years. You give and you give and you give and you give. And he goes, I don't get it. I don't see what's in it for you.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, number one, I get a helper's high, just like you do. Like, it's impossible for you not to get high on the endorphins that come from helping somebody else, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is, when you actually help other people, you start seeing the fruits of the labor of helping those people. It comes back, whether it's karma, whether it's that person actually coming back and saying, dude, you've been so helpful to me. Let me give you back something else, a connection or whatever. And my answer to him was this. I said, JJ, I'm not that selfish. You might even want to label me as selfish. I'm not selfless. I'm selfish.
Yep.
And he goes, how is that? And I go, because I've seen the fruits of helping other people. And when you get a taste of that fruit, you realize this is the path of life. This actually is the path of least resistance. People think the path of least resistance is being lazy and not doing anything. The path of least resistance is actually doing all of that.
Yep. And that's biblical. That's if we take it back to the Bible, I mean, that was Jesus. He was serving people, and he wasn't doing it to go, hey, I'm going to serve this person so then that I can get something. It was like, I'm going to serve this person because they need to be served,
right? And
I want to serve them. And man, guys, I want you guys to take this message that Pace is saying, and first of all, find someone like this week. Find someone this week that you can serve with zero expectation for anything in return back, and just recognize how that feels to you to do that, and then do it again and do it again and do it again. Even if you're down to your last penny or last dime, like, that's exactly what you need to be doing. You shouldn't be going out there going, how do I get mine? You should go, well, let me find a person every single day to serve without asking for anything in return. And the reason for that, and that's what I did, dude, back in 2006 out of college. I graduated college and said, I'm going to take a year. I'm not going to get a job. I'm just going to try to figure this entrepreneurship thing out. I didn't have any money. Went paid my taxes on my credit card bill. I made $12,000 that year. And it didn't work about the first 8 months because I was trying to get mine. I was going out there going, okay, how do I get something I don't have?
Right.
I need money to pay my bills, and how do I get it? And eventually I just relented. I'm like, whatever I'm doing is not working. By me working for this thing, it's not working. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to stop doing that. And I'm just going to go find people that need help, that I've got something that I can help them with. And I'm just going to like give it to them,
right,
just so I can learn.
Right.
And I started shifting that way, rather than pitching contracts for people like for, I was doing marketing stuff. I knew nothing about marketing, but rather than pitching contracts for marketing, I would just go out and reach out to people and email them or whatever I was doing. Say, hey, I found this on your website. If you just change it to these 3 things, it's going to work way better.
Right.
Just go do it. Like
Love
that was
that.
it. And then eventually someone would email back and say, cool. Like, is that something you can do? And I said, yeah, like just give me access to blah, blah, blah. And I'll go in there and do it. And I'll write this copy for you and whatever. And then the person wanted to pay me. I'm like, don't worry about it. And I did that a couple times. And eventually what happened was I was learning a ton. And I'm like, well, I'm becoming a better marketer because I'm actually doing it now.
So crazy.
Not making any money, but
So
I'm actually
crazy.
doing something with
Right.
it. So I'm learning every time and it's working and the person's enjoying it. And that person came back and said, well, can I just pay you every month for this? Like, I don't feel good not paying you. And that was the first real contract that I got.
That's so
working
cool.
for free for the person, doing several projects because I was learning. And I was
Proving
pumped about
yourself
it.
too.
Dude. And they hit me up and said, okay, I just want to pay you whatever. It was like $1,000 a month. So guys, serve people, and Pace, dude, I'm so pumped that you're here. And
bro, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting me. There's been a few people that have like stood out in my life in the last 5 years that have like gone out of their way, turned their day off, turned their business off to say, let me show you a good time. Let me take care of your kids. Let me take care of your wife. Let me like show you guys a good time. My wife last night goes, so, anytime you're going to meet somebody, your wife or somebody in your crew is like, so tell me about this person we're going to hang out with.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, so tell me more about Trevor. I go, dude, first off, he's like the nicest guy ever. We have a lot of the same values. And then you and I had like the same truck.
Dude, it's same truck except GMC and Ford.
Right. But it's like we have similar tastes.
Yeah,
we have similar
it's almost exact
values,
same.
all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, my wife goes, that guy is a truly unbelievable guy. Right. And so I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. And like the way you treated us was amazing. And my wife, who does like wine, has never been to a wine tasting.
What? No way.
Never. So she's just like, oh my gosh, I felt so special.
That's cool.
I felt like a princess of like Roseburg.
That's all. I didn't realize that, man.
Yeah,
That's cool.
she had never done that before because I don't drink. So what happens is we go to Napa and I'm like, hey, let's go on a wine tasting. She's like, well, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I go, but you can, and I'll be there to support you and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, no, I'd rather do it with people that I like want to hang out with. So you made her feel so good last night, and like that kind of stuff will resonate. Those are the things too. I know we're closing up. Those are the things like people don't remember necessarily what you say. People remember how you made them feel, right?
Yep.
And so you made my wife feel a certain way, and I can't thank you enough.
Dude, appreciate it.
You're the man.
Thank you, man.
You're the man, brother.
Thank you very much. And guys, go follow Pace on Instagram. Go follow Pace. Last of all, I guess, but where can people find out more about you?
Honestly, I think Instagram is where I'm just constantly, I'm overwhelmingly annoying on Instagram. So if you
This
don't,
stuff is good, guys.
if
Like,
you want a
I
toned
watch
down version, I would go to like my creative finance page. I have a free Facebook page where that's where I did my 16-hour live. It's where I did my 25-hour live. It's where Cody, my business partner, and we do probably once a month. We'll do a podcast. We call it Sunday Service, where I just do it on Sunday and I just go, what do you guys need? How can I help you? And we'll do like a 3 or 4 hour podcast because I just love to talk shop. And we used to do it every week for a year, very consistent. Similar situation as you, where it was like first time had 10 people, next time had 8, next time, and it grew. And ultimately it got to a point in January of this year, we got to 1,000 viewers watching live.
Dude, that's insane.
Right.
That's insane.
It was insane. And then that was when I decided, hey, I'm going to go build this mentorship. And I put it on pause for about 4 months. And now we're just back to just doing the free Sunday service about once a month, just to like feed back into people. So I'd go check that out, but primarily Instagram, just watch my daily antics on my stories.
I love it. Pace, dude, appreciate you being here.
Thank you, bro.
Everybody, appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel. You get first access to everything when it comes out. You don't have to wait for the email or anything like that. And also, if you're on the YouTube channel, go over to our podcast, go to carrotcast.com or look us up on Spotify Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called now, and hit subscribe. There's so much other information like this. If you enjoyed this conversation with Pace and you want to learn what he does on the daily basis, go check out the earlier episode with him where we talk creative finance. We talk how he's closing 15 to 20 plus deals a month, how he's growing multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses and doing it while he's traveling the U.S.
While I'm in Roseburg, guys.
That's right. We barely have internet here and he's running his business. I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing rest of the week. Pace, thank you, man.
Thank you.